I'm here with Rabbi Gabriel Cousins, who's a medical doctor and a diplomat in Ayurveda, member of the American Board of Holistic Medicine. Dr. Gabriel Cousins has also lived in India for 7 years and studied with Swami Muktananda in an ashram. He has some words of wisdom to share regarding veganism and Jainism.
I want to just honor how great the Jain tradition is and really talk a little bit about ahimsa, the very foundation of the Jain tradition, and how that relates to being plant source only or vegan. And fundamentally, the vegan way of life brings you into ahimsa. Not only in terms of doing harm to other people, other beings, but also in terms of protecting your own body. So I'm going to first start a little different and we'll talk about protecting your own body. In our tradition, we say don't harm your physical body and don't harm your soul. And when we eat animal flesh, we harm it in a variety of ways. One is that by eating higher up on the food chain, we're getting greater amounts of radioactivity, pesticides and herbicides. When you take in animal flesh, you are taking in the pain, the misery, the fear of that killed animal into your body, and it agitates your mind, and therefore, again, violates our ability to have a quiet mind, which is very fundamental in the Jain way, than to rise above the mind. An agitated mind can't meditate. What's the problem with dairy? Well, clearly in India, it was called rasa. Okay, but that's out of context. Now it's filled with radiation, pesticides, herbicides, bovine growth hormone. It's not at all good for you, and the statistics support it. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about 3 times women who have dairy are having 3 times more ovarian cancer. Double, and men and women have double the amount of lung cancer. Both men and women have increased triple the amount of lymphomas and leukemias because dairy congests the lymphatic system. So we're talking about a very serious thing that way. We also have in the United States 50 million people who are allergic to dairy and often are eating it, and so it's associated with a whole lot of intestinal problems for that reason, as well as asthma. So those are big issues that we're facing. The fact of the pesticides and herbicides being up to 15 times to 30 times higher is significant because it's affecting our children. Okay? For example, and this is true, after Chernobyl, the rate of perinatal mortality, children who died either in the womb or right after birth, increased 900%. In Boston. How come? Because the cows were eating the radioactive iodine on the grass, and it was going in the milk, and the kids were dying of iodine poisoning. This is really what we're talking about. Now, that's an extreme example, but we're poisoning our kids with this. So, not only is it bad for cancer, it is also bad for diabetes, but it is a major carrier of pesticide, herbicide, and radiation, which really decreases fertility and decreases our ability to be healthy in many ways. So this is the physical plane and also the spiritual plane that's important as a part of ahimsa for yourself. Now obviously when we're killing 10 billion, some people say 25 billion animals a year, that's a level of cruelty and bloodlust that goes beyond ahimsa. And when we involve the animals in the cruelty of factory farming, which is how most of the people are getting their meat, we're compounding it because we go into asetya, stealing. We are stealing their life purpose, we're stealing their soul, we're stealing their fur, we're stealing their milk, we're stealing their flesh, we're stealing their little babies. Asetya is violated in this way. So that's an important thing. And then we have satya, truthfulness. And truthfulness also involves faithfulness to the truth. The great truth in the Jain religion is ahimsa, do the minimum amount of harm. Everybody does some harm. The minimum, though. And we are not being truthful to ourselves if we aren't faithful to the deeper truth of ahimsa and non-cruelty and killing of animals, meat, fish, chicken, okay, and stealing the milk from the animals. So that's asetya, okay? And truthfulness is not fooling yourself. Now, we also have brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, in a broader definition, means sexual perversion. And what we see with the farm being as it is today, we see artificial insemination so that the cows and the chickens are being, cross-species raped. And how do we think we get the semen from the bulls? So we have a cross-species, and it is a sexual perversion that is literally going on. We should be truthful about what's going on. Okay? So that's a sexual perversion, brahmacharya. So it's a violation of that. Then we also have apagraha, and that means greed or covetousness. Now, when we understand that the vegan way of life saves about 1.5 million gallons a year, like a whole swimming pool, and animal agriculture takes approximately 70% of the water supply. It's polluting the air, which belongs to everybody, okay? And it's taking up huge amounts of land, creating literally 20 million acres a year of trees, 50 million acres of trees being cut down, and 20 million acres a year of land becoming desert. We are creating a hoarding of resources, literally a hoarding of resources. And add to that we're using, meat eaters using 10 to 27 times more energy. This is apagraha at its worst. So that's actually what happens when we move into satya, understanding truth. It's like we can't fool ourselves anymore. Now, the first step in making the transition back to the great ahimsa tradition of the Jains is not to fool yourself. Just tell yourself the truth and be faithful to what you in your hearts know is the truth. The second step is very gradually, if you want, or you can do it in a day if you want. Move from the meat, moving to chicken, and then fish over a period of time. Eventually eggs, which in the yogic tradition are really seen as what we call tamasik, which dulls the mind and consciousness. And I want to point out that part of the story of how to do this is that there are people who need more protein. We have extraordinarily good protein in spirulina and chlorella and in the blue-green algaes. These are proteins that are 60 to 70% protein by content, 95% assimilated. Meat, fish, and chicken are only 16, 17, and 18% assimilated. So you're getting a much higher quality of protein with your plant-based protein.
And Dr. Cousens, if you could especially speak to the step of giving up dairy, because many Jains have already given up eggs and they're not eating meat. that next step of giving up dairy is the big challenge.
Perfect timing, because that is the next step. But we have to know one thing. Dairy is addictive. It has casomorphins in it, which is 1/15 as strong as morphine. So you don't want to be a drug addict in addition. And I'm joking a little bit, but it is addicting. And it takes a week to 2 weeks to actually withdraw from the dairy. We have to know that is what's going on. And then I see amazing things clear up. When little kids, I'm seeing the colds and the flus and the earaches like clear up almost overnight. Parents think it's a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's just the natural way of living that keeps you healthy. So dairy is a very important thing. The other thing is in diabetes, in type 1 diabetes, just to explain how important it is, the rate of type 1 diabetes, what we call juvenile diabetes, is 11 to 13 times higher in kids who have cow milk. That's one study. And other studies said 9 to 11, but it's very, very much higher for a variety of reasons. So it really isn't really safe for our young children as well. I'm not talking mother's milk, which we're programmed to have. So the act of giving up dairy is very important, but do know you want to do, you got to have some self-control with it. And it's best to do it in a supportive way. If your whole family can give up dairy, all your friends can give up dairy at once, we can support each other in that major transition. And then you have it. You're now back to the true understanding of the Jain way, ahimsa. May you all be blessed, that you're truly able to live in ahimsa in the way that your great tradition meant it to be. Amen.